All right, let's dive into one of the biggest, oldest, and most difficult questions out there, the problem of evil. But what if the answer isn't some complex philosophical formula? What if it's actually a story, a huge cosmic drama? That's the perspective we're going to explore today.
I mean, this is the question that gets to all of us, doesn't it? It's that deep, gut-level protest against all the suffering and injustice we see. It's the tension between a good creator and a world that often feels anything but good. And it's right at the heart of everything we're talking about. So here's the big shift in thinking that our source material proposes. It argues that the Bible doesn't try to solve this like a math problem. Instead, it tells a story, a really sprawling, multi-layered story of rebellion, invasion, and ultimately redemption that involves the entire cosmos.
So where does this story even begin? Well, according to this view, the roots of evil go way, way back, even before human history. We're starting the story in a spiritual realm, in the very first act of this cosmic drama.
Okay, now what's so important to notice on this timeline is the sequence of events. Evil doesn't start with a human making a bad choice in a garden. Nope. It begins with a rebellion among powerful, free-willed heavenly beings who decided to reject their creator. That's the initial crack in the cosmos. And from there, it spills over, it metastasizes, and it infects the human world.
And that brings us to a really crucial definition. In this framework, evil isn't a thing that God made, like a rock or a planet. It's more like a parasite. It's a corruption of something good. Think about it. It takes a good gift, like freedom or power, and twists it through a bad choice. It can't exist on its own. It only exists by feeding on and distorting the good.
Okay, so let's move into the second act. That initial rebellion, well, it didn't just stay a random, chaotic mess. It actually got organized. It structured itself into a hostile spiritual force. You could almost think of it as a rival, shadow kingdom, dead set on wrecking the Creator's good world. And at the head of this whole operation is a figure called the adversary, who has a pretty clear three-part game plan. As the deceiver, he's basically running a disinformation campaign, twisting reality with lies. As the tempter, he's offering fake shortcuts to happiness that actually lead to destruction. And as the accuser, he's constantly trying to drive a wedge between humanity and God, fostering shame and mistrust. Now, this quote gets at a really mind-bending idea called cosmic geography. The argument is that these rebellious powers aren't just floating around randomly, they exert real influence over specific territories, nations, and cultures. They become these unseen forces working behind the scenes, pushing human systems toward the same old patterns of injustice and corruption that we see again and again throughout history.
But that is not where the story ends. Not even close. Because now we get to the turning point of the whole drama, the arrival of Jesus. And in this framework, his mission is nothing less than the Creator's full-scale, decisive counterattack.
You see, when Jesus shows up on the scene, he's not just a wise teacher sharing moral platitudes. He's portrayed as a warrior king launching an invasion. Every time he heals someone, or casts out a demon, or speaks a word of truth, he's planting a flag and reclaiming enemy-occupied territory. And just look at this comparison. It's amazing. The weapons Jesus uses are the exact opposite, the perfect antidote to the weapons of the enemy. He fights deception with truth. He counters accusation with radical forgiveness. He meets oppression with liberation. And their ultimate weapon, death itself, he shatters it with his resurrection. It's a total dismantling of their entire arsenal.
And this whole invasion comes to a head in two specific history-altering moments. But these aren't just things that happened 2,000 years ago. The source material frames them as cosmic events that completely shifted the balance of power in the universe.
So here's the brilliant twist. At the cross, the evil powers think they're winning, but what they're actually doing is overplaying their hand and exposing their own evil for all to see. In that moment, their legal claim on humanity is broken. And then comes the resurrection, which is the ultimate checkmate. It shatters their final weapon, death, and proves that their power is finished.
Okay, which of course brings us to the elephant in the room. If this decisive battle was already won, why is the world still such a mess? Why do we still see so much suffering and evil all around us? It's a fair question.
And the answer lies in this really important distinction. The powers are defeated, but they are not yet destroyed. Think of it like a war where the decisive battle has already been won. D-Day, for example. The outcome is certain, but there are still pockets of fierce resistance fighting on until the final surrender is declared.
This slide does a great job of visualizing this already but not yet reality we're living in. On the one hand, the victory is an accomplished fact. The kingdom has been inaugurated. But on the other hand, we're still in the process of seeing that victory fully play out in history. We live in that overlap.
So, where is all of this heading? Well, let's move to the final act of this grand story, because it doesn't end in a stalemate. It points toward a final, complete, and total resolution where the problem of evil is dealt with for good.
And here's what that promised restoration looks like. All evil and rebellion are finally judged and removed. Creation isn't just tossed aside, it's healed and renewed. Humanity is finally restored to what it was always meant to be. And suffering, pain, and death, they're gone, forever. The story doesn't end in tragedy or ambiguity. It ends in the complete triumph of good.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. If you see evil not as some permanent random flaw in the universe, but as the last desperate struggle of an already defeated enemy, in a story that is heading towards total restoration, well, how does that change the way you look at the world? How does that change the way you face injustice and suffering? It's a powerful idea to sit with. Thanks for joining us.